So as many of you guys have seen, Ken Carson has been extremely active within dropping new singles off of his Lost Files 5 series pretty much for the past 3 weeks, right? First single kicked off on Halloween with Yes, aka Pine of Red. Last week we did receive Catastrophe on streaming platforms. Alongside this week being last night, we did get Margella on streaming platforms. That was a big grail, right? And like I said, these past 3 weeks, Ken Carson has been extremely active. And throughout these past 3 weeks as well, Ken Carson has been co-signing a bunch of snippets, a bunch of just grails that we could potentially see drop within the later coming weeks for Lost Files 5, right? And one particular grail, in my opinion, the biggest grail within the Ken Carson community, being Game Over, was teased and confirmed via Ken Carson. It seems like out of all the grails, Game Over has been the #1 most teased from Ken as of recent. And basically a couple of hours ago, we just got word via Kirko alongside Ken Carson that Game Over with the Shore Lonely, the highly anticipated, pretty much biggest grail, is going to be releasing next week 1000%. So let's talk about it. So like I said in the intro, these past 3 weeks, Ken Carson has been extremely active within dropping pretty big snippets for his Lost Files 5 series, right? We first started off with Pine of Red, aka Yes. This was a pretty big snippet. This was actually one of my grails. Then the week later, we did actually get Catastrophe. And if you guys know, this was actually a leak prior to it dropping. And then as of last night, we did get another pretty big snippet, being Margella, which out of the 3, I do think is the best so far. But like I said, Ken Carson has been teasing a bunch of new snippets throughout the past 3 weeks, where he really started dropping as of I'd say October 31st, Halloween. Since then, Ken Carson has had his foot on the gas and has just been co-signing hella snippets, right? First we got Game Over right here, then we got Chrome Hearts Lens, which is my personal favorite, then we got Boyle, aka Flamethrower, No Wings alongside Almighty 00, and then he also teased another one with Cardi as well. So there's a bunch of Ken Carson grail snippets, just a bunch of snippets floating around within the community as to people thinking, what is going to be dropping next, right? And a lot of people were thinking last night we were actually going to be getting Game Over, because like I said in the intro, Ken Carson has been teasing Game Over the most out of any of these snippets so far, right? It really started off on November 1st. He teased Game Over right here, and then 5 days later on the 6th, he doubled down on Game Over. He quoted a fan talking about Game Over. He said, "Call me ASAP at the Shore Lonely." The Shore Lonely picked up the call. He said, "Hello, let's drop it." And then we seen Ken Carson saying, "What we doing tonight though?" So a lot of people were thinking, no, last week Game Over has to be dropping this week. It's just been too active. But as you guys can see last night, we did get Margella, which I'm not mad at whatsoever, because I do think Margella is a banger and is easily the best out of those 3 so far. But we just got word, confirmation, double down, stamped in concrete proof from all these sources that next week we could finally see the highly anticipated 3-year grail being Game Over drop next week. As you guys can see right here, Kirko said Ken Carson, The Shore Lonely, Game Over, November 21st, aka next Friday. It is so up, right? And then we also seen him share some screenshots, as you guys can see right here, which I believe Ken was talking to a fan page about Game Over next week. He said drop Game Over next week though 5. He said will. Kirko said it right here. It don't get more real than this. Game Over is finally dropping, like I said, after 3 years next week, which I'm very excited for. That's one of my top, I'd say 2 grails, right? My #1, if many of you guys know, is going to be Chrome Hearts Lens, and then my #2 is going to be Game Over. Now, with Game Over being confirmed for next week, it got me thinking, now this could kind of go down in 2 ways, right? It could either go extremely well, or I'm not gonna lie, it could go very bad, right? There's only 2 options. I don't think there's a middle ground with this song right here, because like I said, it's been 3 years since this song has been teased. They first teased this song, I believe, on the X-Men tour. I think that's when the first snippet came out for Game Over. Now it's 2022. It's currently 2025. 3 years later, we're finally getting the song. I said this song is either going to be generational, it's gonna match the hype, it's gonna be well worth the wait, and everybody is gonna fall in love with this song, or snippet syndrome is going to hit like crack. That's obviously for everybody's own interpretation of the song, but I feel like there's only 2 ways in which this song could go down. It could go very good, or it could go very bad. Now, in my opinion, I'm not really one to really get snippet syndrome. Snippet syndrome isn't really a thing that really affects me, but I do know it does affect a lot of people. And I'm already knowing the civil war that's about to go down within the community when this song drops, right? And we've pretty much already seen the Destroy Lonely verse. He went crazy, and then Ken hopped on the song. he was sliding on this song, but we haven't seen the full Ken verse. And then also, like I said, there's probably like 2 more minutes, maybe like a minute and a half of the song left. So we will see what the rest of the song does sound like. But imagine if there's like a beat switch or just something super left field unexpected for this song. That is gonna go insane. Now, I hope Ken Carson just keeps the song the way it is, because we have seen artists, you know, specifically actually Cardi, he has some like highly anticipated snippets, even some songs that he did drop officially on Instagram. For example, being HBA, right? HBA was amazing. Everybody loved HBA on Instagram. And then we've seen it on iMusic. They kind of reworked the song. I hope Ken doesn't do the same with this, and I don't think he will, because the Instagram HBA compared to the music HBA is night and day for me. I think the music HBA is complete garbage. I hope Ken doesn't tweak the song, play around with it, just drop the song as is. And like I said, we don't know what the rest of the song does sound like, so we will see. But I do think it is going to be a very good song, and I think it's probably going to take the best spot out of the 4 singles so far, right? Obviously that's going to be the 4th one, right? And then I also seen that Ken Carson actually lost the song. Like, the song was actually a lost file. I seen Bob Bland post it. These dudes probably lost Game Over song file, and we're looking for it for the past 2 weeks. And then Ken replied saying, on 5, I had to find that MF. So he actually lost the song. So good thing Ken finally found the song. And then he also said, somebody said Game Over or Miss Me. He said, okay, both. And I believe Miss Me, correct me if I'm wrong. I do think Miss Me is, they gonna miss me when I'm gone, yeah, I know. Like, I think that's Miss Me. So that seems to be another one of the snippets that is, I'm not gonna say confirmed, but co-signed from Ken Carson. We got 1 week to go for Game Over. Will it be worth the wait? 3 years later, will it be worth the hype? We will see when the day comes. If you guys like this video, like, comment, share, and subscribe. It's MONEYMAY, and I'm out. Thank you guys.